الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر.
Welcome to Let the Quran Speak. My name is Sophia, I'm your host. The aim of Let the Quran Speak is to help you gain deeper insights into Muslims and Islam as it's practiced here and in other parts of the world. First up on the show, what to expect in Ramadan. The Muslim fasting month is approaching once again. The first few days of the month are often considered the hardest. How do Muslims prepare themselves for fasting? What do they do to survive the hot summer days? What happens if they get sick or if they break their fast by mistake? How do they gear up physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and what can neighbors and co-workers expect while interacting with a fasting Muslim? With me to answer those questions, Dr. Shabir Ali, President of the Islamic Information Center. Dr. Shabir, welcome to Let the Quran Speak.
Pleasure to be on.
Now, are you looking forward to Ramadan?
Absolutely.
So what can a Muslim expect as they begin the month of Ramadan?
Well, the first few days are always the most difficult ones, and this is not only for Muslims. Anyone else in any of the world's religions, once they start fasting after having had regular days prior to that, will find that initially it is difficult. And this is a point that was raised and discussed amply by R.D. Chatham in the book Fasting, a Biblical Historical Perspective. So what would Muslims expect in the first few days then? Because the Muslim
Because Muslims
fast
also
usually
don't drink, right?
Exactly.
And it's summer.
So it's a total abstinence from all food and drink from morning till evening. And yes, now that it is in the summer, it could be quite a challenge. But
So during the hottest parts of the day, Muslims are fasting.
Absolutely, yes. So how do we cope with this? Well, to begin with, our religion stresses practicality in all affairs, so that if something is too difficult for someone to handle, well then one is not required to do that. So people who are too old to fast would, instead of fasting, give a charity. And people who are ill may wait until they get better and then fast, even if it's after Ramadan is over. And if they don't expect to get better within a reasonable time, then they would also give a charity instead of fasting. Women who are pregnant or breastfeeding would give a charity instead of fasting. Children who are too young to be able to bear the fast, again, would have the same facility. Well, they wouldn't give a charity, they would not be required to, but they would not be required to fast in the first place. Those who are engaged in such difficult jobs as would make it unbearable for them to fast. Someone in one of the writings has given the example of somebody working in front of a pizza oven, for example. It will be too much for such a person to fast. One would simply collapse due to exhaustion. That's not to say that some brave individuals might not have done it and might be saying, well, wait a minute, I've done it, well, others can do it too. Well, the fact that you have done it doesn't mean that we can impose this on others. So again, so a facility is offered where needed, and the idea is that able-bodied persons who can easily, well, even with some difficulty, bear the fast and can get through the day, it is a good spiritual exercise, and they should do it.
So how do they prepare themselves? I mean, they're getting into this month, they're starting, they're realizing they have to give up coffee, they have to give up a lot of the things that they enjoyed. What do they do to prepare themselves?
As I was saying, practicality is prescribed in all affairs, and one of the practical aspects of the fast is that we are encouraged actually to eat a morning meal in preparation for the fast. In fact, the Quran says you can eat and drink throughout the night, so it's possible, if one were actually staying up, that one could be eating during the night and just fasting during the day. Though this, of course, does not normally happen. There is only so much your stomach can take anyhow, and if you're fasting during the day, you find by the evening even though you're allowed to eat, you're not able to eat that much. So even if you wanted to eat during the night, you would still be able to consume only so little. And the nights are so short during the summer months that even so, you only have a limited space of time within which to eat what you would like. But the most regular thing is that one eats a good evening meal, and then one eats a healthy breakfast as well. And so one is really eating still 2 meals per day. So if you needed a certain basic number of calories to get you through a 24-hour period, you could actually get close to that within the 2 meals and maybe a snack in between or something like that if you were staying up late after the late night prayers.
So would you suggest or recommend that an individual who's fasting or beginning the fast slow down in terms of their workload?
Well, I wouldn't prescribe that because it is known that in early Islamic history at least, that Muslims are very active during the month of Ramadan and very productive. The idea is not really to harm or delimit productivity because of Ramadan. We are to maintain a balance in life. The Quranic prayer that Muslims recite regularly says, our Lord grant us the good of this life and the good of the life hereafter. So the two are paired. It's not that because we're pursuing the good of the life hereafter, we're going to neglect the good of this world. Now, in an Islamic context, we can see that things could actually slow down a little bit, but pick up speed later on after Ramadan is over.
In some Muslim countries, this is what happens.
Yes, and this is natural because everyone is in the fasting spirit. It's almost like saying we have a festive season, and during the festive season, people are celebrating. Productivity may be a little bit down for that period, but hopefully it'll pick up again after people have had this period of rest from the usual hustle and bustle of material things, or at least the things that are normally preoccupying us throughout the year. But in a context such as Canada, where Muslims are fasting, we cannot expect that the system will slow down for us. Everything is moving at the speed of business, and we have to be there with it as well. So one has to try and arrange one's activities in such a way that one will be ready to observe the fast during the month of Ramadan, and also to keep up with the usual levels of expected productivity wherever we are.
How about people interacting with Muslims? Would Muslims generally be grouchy during the day that they're fasting? What would their demeanor be like?
It is sometimes said that a hungry man is an angry man, but of course Muslims should not be angry or grouchy as a result of their fasting. They should in fact be happy. It is mentioned in one of the Gospels, in the Gospel of Matthew, that Jesus, on whom be peace, instructed his disciples, when you fast, you should oil your hair and wash your faces. And the idea seems to be that people other than the disciples of Jesus might have fasted and appeared dreary, so that people would know that they're fasting and feel sympathetic towards them. But the disciples were being instructed, look your best, look sharp, so that people wouldn't even know that you're fasting. Your fasting then would only be between you and God. Of course, now it is no secret that Muslims are fasting. People will know. Even if they did oil their hairs and wash their faces, which they should anyway, well, put some of the usual stuff on the hair, whether gels or whatever. But the point is that Muslims should appear vibrant, lively, and at all appearances, everything should be proceeding as normal. And the fast should not be something that anyone has any reason to think is reducing productivity or is causing any sort of loss in any other way.
An employer, a coworker, or even a neighbor, someone in the community might wonder how it is that they can support their fellow Muslim who is fasting. How can they help that person or make their life easier, perhaps?
I don't know if there's anything we could actually. Muslims, of course, should not demand anything of their non-Muslim neighbors and friends and co-workers. In fact, Muslims during this month should be more charitable than at other times, and they should look for ways to help their co-workers, classmates, neighbors and friends. But I think you asked it the right way, that many non-Muslim Canadians, out of their own generosity and kindness, would be sympathetic to their fellow who is going through a rigorous spiritual exercise, and they may be asking, how can we help? I don't know if there's anything specific that could be done, except that one might just be on the alert and not invite the Muslim friend to have a drink, or to go for a coffee, or to go out for lunch together, knowing that the Muslim friend is probably fasting during this month.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for your time, Brother
You're
Shabir.
welcome.
We'll take a break. On a return, we'll look at the question of how it is that some Muslims, some young Muslims, are going into a life of violence and crime.